I asked him when I was talking to him earlier, I said to him, I really wish you were here, and he said, next time, Mom, next time, because his story since being introduced to the Vox insoles and the socks is just growing. It's just every day there's something new and exciting for him, and he was 18 actually when we were introduced to the socks, and he just turned 19, so he's a young guy, and that's pretty powerful for a young person to have such a testimony already. So I'll share that testimony with you. As Lee said, I do have a private practice. I manage a health food store that is fairly new, and I have a private practice in that store as well. And so I've been in private practice for about 18 years, 17 years since just after my son was born. And prior to this, I used to be in social work. So I say at one time I was taking care of people's emotional states, and today I'm taking care of their physical states. And so I've done kind of the best of both worlds. So not the Vox necessarily, but the concepts of things were not foreign to me. I've worked with reflexologists and other practitioners who work on energy medicine and things like that. So I'm fairly open to healing modalities. I had been at a couple of shows, and I had actually seen the Voxxlife signs here at some tables, and they were always busy when I went by, so I never stopped. And I think it was April, I took my son and his girlfriend for a drive, and we landed in Paris. We like to get in the car and just take off, and we landed in Paris, Ontario, not Paris, France. And we went into a craft show, and there was the Vox sign, and I saw it, and I thought, man, I said to my son, this will be the third time that I've seen this now. And there was not anybody at the table at that point. Any people passing through it had been busy, but by the time we got there, it was kind of like open for us. So I said, let's stop. And my son was like, oh, Mom, you're always going to stop everywhere. And I'm like, let's just stop for a minute. I just want to find out what this is about. It's like, okay. So he's used to me talking to practitioners and then saying I'll be 5 minutes and I'm an hour later. And so anyway, we stopped, and him and his girlfriend kind of stood on the side looking like 18-year-olds do, which is fairly bored, humming and hawing, and rolling their eyes. And Kim McDermott, who's not here today, but
lots of people are here because of her.
Because of her, yeah, I was going to say lots of people probably know her. She was there. And a gentleman, and I thought it was her husband, and I said the other day, yo, your husband, and she said, my husband? She goes, oh no, that's not my husband, he was another associate. I thought they were a married couple. I'm like, oh, anyway, so anyway, I asked her about the Vox, and she started to explain to me the technology and also share a bit of stories with it and stuff like that, and I was like, that's cool. But I have to be honest with you, I was very skeptical. I've seen a lot of different things in holistic medicine. Some are very solid and some are way out there. And so this one to me was like, I just don't get how a sock can do that, but all right. And I said, oh, that's cool. I'm talking to her. And then she said, well, do you want to get tested? Do you want to? And I do muscle testing with my patients, so this wasn't unusual either for me. I said, well, I don't really want to. I said, but and then I'm thinking in my head, if there's anybody to test, we should test my son. Now, she didn't know the history or the story behind my son, and that was what was the powerful thing. So when I was pregnant with my son, I did a fully natural pregnancy. I was very into alternative medicine with my son. I didn't do any drugs, anything like that, no epidurals, anything. The birth was beautiful. I had a lovely time, and everything was well until my son went to walk, and I noticed that he wasn't crawling and he wasn't walking like my two girlfriends' kids were, who we were pregnant at the same time. And I thought, this is odd, but I had also heard that boys are delayed. Nothing against you guys, but you're delayed, it's not your fault. And so I said, that's okay, we'll see and we'll wait. So I took him finally to the doctor, and they said, they couldn't see anything wrong with him. He was fine, progressing well in all his other milestones. He was meeting them, there wasn't an issue, language was great, blah, blah, blah. So I waited, he still didn't walk. When he crawled really oddly, and then when he finally did walk, he walked really funny, and he looked like he wanted to walk, but he couldn't walk. And so at that point I took him to a pediatric neurologist, and they ended up doing an MRI on him, and they gave me some shocking news. They said, did you know, well you didn't know, but did you know that when your baby was 24 weeks in utero, he had a stroke? And I mean, my jaw, I would have needed one of those jaw guard things because my jaw was on the floor. I said, what are you talking about? They said, yeah, we did the MRI, you can see the pooling there, he's had a stroke. And actually, he's a miracle because he went from 26 weeks to 40 weeks with limited oxygen.
Wow.
Tell me there's not a God.
Yeah.
Going, okay, he first of all shouldn't be alive. Secondly, he should have some challenges. So I said, okay, what do we do? Well, the first thing they want to do is hook you up with all the medical things, right? They wanted him, so we went and saw an orthopedic, pediatric surgeon, all kinds of other people. So he ended up in London at the Children's Section Hospital, and they wanted to do all kinds of things to him. Long story short, as a practitioner and a holistic mama, I said absolutely no to everything. I said I will not do anything invasive on my child, no vaccines, no drugs, none of that. We'll do everything natural that we can do. And so he was 2 days old when we started to see a chiropractor. He started massage therapy, physiotherapy. The only thing I allowed them to do was cast his left leg, which is where the stroke affected him, to pull up the muscle and the tendons in the back of his leg, to stretch them. And then he wore a brace, right? They said he would never walk, that he would never ride a bike, he would never skate. And the challenge for my son is inside his mind, he's an athlete. His dad was an athlete, played football, was to play professional football. His uncle was to play professional basketball. So he has that kind of athleticism in him. The problem was his body wouldn't cooperate with his brain. But we still put him in sports, and we still, encouraged him to do everything. But he was told he was never to do anything. My son is 19, he walks, he talks, he rides a bike, he skated, he ended up playing hockey as a goalie for a really short period of time, plays soccer, graduated high school, going off to college, all of that. And he's a miracle, and never had any of the medical intervention. In fact, they involved him in a study when he was 10, they said they'll decide at 10 years old whether they would actually do surgery on him. And it was a critical point at 10 because something to do with the muscles and the tendons at that point, and they'd have to make the decision. And we went in, and he always had a team of people that came. They didn't call you by your name. You came in a room, you sat in the room, they brought a brood of people, they walked up to you, looked at you, and left, and you're like, okay, well, have a good day. And like, thanks a lot. What are they doing? I don't know. And they just say, come back in 6 weeks or come back in 4 weeks. So they came in, the team came in, all the students are like, well, does he need surgery? Doesn't he need surgery? They wanted to give him Botox shots and blah, blah. And we had refused all of that. All the doctors touched him and felt him and made him walk. And they said, and I looked at the doctor, and they said, well, and he said, no surgery. The guy's fine. Like, see ya. There's nothing more we can do. And I said, great, on we go. But the thing I didn't know about my son, because he lived with this, is that he lives in pain. So I get to cry. Every day. And I didn't know that. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna get him tested. So Kim put him on. First she did the range of motion thing. And I saw his face, and as a mother, you know your kid, right? You know what they're thinking. even when they're 18, they don't talk to you anymore. And he put the stick in his hand, you know, first, and then he did this little thing, and I could tell, and he's got a bit of a curvature of the spine, his left side was weak, so, you know, I could tell his range is weak. And then, you know, she tested just like how Terry was saying, she tested him, and over he went, you know, and he had never been muscle tested, so he was shocked. He was like, wait a minute, you know, and he said, do it again, you know, do it again. I was like, Seth, you're done, like, you're not gonna. So that was fine, they did all that. And then she said, okay, come on over, get on the insoles. She did the testing, and he's like, cool, you know, because she couldn't move him, right? And then the range of motion with that curvature in the spine went all the way back. He's like, wow. So here's this 18-year-old going, this is awesome. And I can see his face, so I'm going, okay, this is cool. Okay. So she said, put them on, put the insoles on. So put them in his shoes, and she said, just walk around, like just walk around for a few minutes. You're good, you know. So he put them on, and I saw his face, and I'm not kidding you. If I wouldn't have seen it, I wouldn't have believed it. But I saw his face just change. And I even saw his posture, because he has a little bit of the S, and you wouldn't notice it. I just know, because I know him, right? I saw his shoulder raise up, and I saw his face, and all of a sudden he started to go. I did this smile, and he was going. And he's going. And I'm going, what? You know, I know he's hyper, but I mean, you know, he's probably got a lot of red up there. But anyway, he's like going like, and and she goes, okay, put a pair of socks on with the insoles. Put them on. She starts going around, and he's like going, oh, and he's laughing and giggling, and I'm like, and then I looked at him, and I saw his eyes, and his eyes were red. And I knew that he was an 18-year-old boy crying on the inside, but too cool at 18 to cry in front of a bunch of women and, you know, at a craft show. And I pulled him out, I said, son, I said, what's the matter? What's wrong? He goes, Mom, this is the first time I've been out of pain in 18 years. When you hear your kids say that, it's like, whoa. And I said, that was it. I said, I thought these were $200. That's what I thought. I just assumed. I don't know why I had that number in my head. And I'm a single mom. And I don't have extra money. And I just said, I want these. I want these now. Ask him. I want them right now. I want a pair for my son right now. He said, Mom, you don't have to buy them. No, I want them right now. And I want the socks. He's got them. I want the socks too. Give me the socks. How much? And I'm like, okay, I'll pay whatever. It doesn't matter. And she goes, yeah, 45 for the insoles and 30 for the. I'm like, what? What? Okay, get me 2 pairs of socks, and I want a pair too. I was like freaked out. Got a little bag, you know. And he's just like, he's freaking out. He's literally walking all over, and he is so happy. And she calls over the gentleman that was with her, and who I thought was her husband. I said, no. And she's telling him, and he's like weeping, and they're weeping, and they're going, this is why we do what we do. This is, Seth, you are the reason why we do this. This is it. And I was just like hugging them. It was like we knew each other, like family. Like, oh, thank you, you know, for helping my son. And so I said to her, I said, what's your name? And she said, I said, I'm Cheryl. I said, what's your name? She said, my name is Kim McDermott. And I said, oh, well, meet my son, Seth McDermott. And they're like, what? So, you know, I'm like, what? And then her name is Mac Dermott, and his is Mick Dermott. So Kim now calls Seth the Mick to her Mac. And they're fairly close. Since then, after that, he started, you know, I check in with him every day, tell me how good he's doing. And then I took him to youth. He goes to youth group, and he plays basketball. And as I told you, he's an athlete inside, he wants to be good. And he came out of youth and just beaming. And I'm like, how was youth? You know, and he said, Mom, I scored every basket at the basketball game tonight, and we won. And I scored every single goal. He said, I was like, I just couldn't miss. I'm like, okay, this is so cool. Okay, and then a few days later, he goes to his chiropractor. We're usually in there half an hour because he has to do a lot of physio, a lot of work. He's out in like 30 seconds. I'm like, did we get the wrong day? Did we get the wrong appointment? He goes, Mom, I went to the chiropractor. All you had to do was adjust my neck. The rest was fine. He even said to me, I got nothing to do for you, Seth. I said, did you tell him about the box? He goes, no. I'm like, no, Seth, come on. 18-year-old. So you should have told him. Because he's never, since his baby, right, not being, having to have so much adjustment, right? And so now he's joined the Y, playing basketball regularly with the kids there and going in and feeling like his game's on. He wears the knee-high reds. So he's like got his suit, he's got the knee-high reds in there. And he's going off to college in the fall, and I said to him, Seth, this is an opportunity for you. And so my son actually joined Vox, and this, I'm hoping, is going to be a financial blessing to him, so that it will help him in school to pay the, schooling that we need paid, and that it will help, more than anything, that help the other kids that he needs, because he's going to be able to reach an audience that this gray-haired person isn't necessarily going to be able to reach, right? Talk to the young people there and helping encourage them to heal and be well. And I'm all about the healing and wellness as a practitioner. That's my goal, is to help people. So I thank Vox on behalf of my son, who is a happy, healthy 19-year-old kid, doing better at basketball, just like his dream has always been. And I thank you for having me. Thanks, Lee, for letting me.